I should just admit bias right off the bat with this review, because Beach House are a dream pop and neo-psych duo that, in my opinion, have dropped probably some of the most solid records in the genre, period, from the likes of Teen Dream and Devotion and Bloom. And the group consistently comes back to themes of spirituality and death and just this burning desire for someone in their songwriting. If I were to like sum it up all in one line, it would probably be like this off of Lemon Glow. But here's the thing with Beach House, okay? A lot of people are bringing up this thing where they continue to drop album after album in pretty much like the same to just very similar sound palettes repeatedly, just over and over and over again. And in 2015, when they dropped Depression Cherry and Thank Your Lucky Stars, they were met with like a little bit more criticism than is typical for them, because, you know, they keep playing it safe, they keep doing the same thing over and over, blah blah blah. Listen, I don't understand this, like, really at all. I mean, just taking in the fact that there's already so much other music out there, and like you're really getting mad at this one group for finding their niche, finding their own unique sound, rolling with it, and just consistently putting out good albums in the genre. Like, you're really that angry, like, really. And Seven over here is a bit of a stylistic mixed bag. Again, subtle differences. This is them proving that they are masters of their craft that can switch up an album just enough to make it unique to stand out in their discography. This album is a bit heavier, a bit more atmospheric, and in my opinion, a bit more intricate than their other records have been. And shoegaze elements do kind of creep in a few areas in this album, but I still wouldn't necessarily call it like a shoegaze album. It's just kind of like this grittiness and this whole wall of sound thing just kind of like make its way into the production of a few tracks here and there, and definitely to the group's benefit. I swear to God, I swear to fucking God. But anywho, moving on to the actual songs in the album. Dark Spring is kind of a mystical, shoegazy track. It has like a grittiness, but also works in these classic dreamy elements that we're used to hearing from Beach House. And the lyrics are simply perfect to me too. They more describe an atmosphere than any like tangible thing. It just sets the tone of the album so well, and the track fades out with this heavy wailing tone. And Pay No Mind, I think, is perfectly placed in this album. Like, the slower tempo of the instrumentation is just so refreshing after how driving and intense the beginning was, with kind of the droning and distortion and dreamy guitar lead. It's still a little shoegazy, but it's almost like this track is a little more Slowdive-esque, whereas Dark Spring was a little more My Bloody Valentine-esque. And God, I don't know what it is about this hook that just captivates me every time, but dear God, I love it. Lemon Glow feels a little more neo-psychedelic, and God, what a perfect example of how reverb is used to this group's benefit. And I kind of see this track as like the way that love creeps through you whether you like it or not, and the extreme highs and lows that follow from the lyricism to kind of the way the sonic landscape gradually adds in like these dazzling chords. And then the next track's in French, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but all of the chilling layers of vocals in the beginning almost just sound angelic, and then the distorted melody and the sharp guitars and kind of the vast layers of ambience are absolutely beautiful. And God, the way the hi-hats come in, it just feels like such a defining moment for the track and rips into my fucking heart. And then I really like the steady guitar and drum in Drunk in LA that kind of works as a nice backing for the emerging reverb-soaked lead, and the distorted guitar that kind of comes in underneath all of these layers about halfway through sounds really buried in the mixing, but it absolutely works and adds to how gargantuan and atmospheric this track feels. And I feel like the older you get, the harder it becomes not to relate to the lyrical side of this track, kind of being about this person who's lived this long life with all of these stories to tell, but everyone's kind of come and gone from their life at this point, and they have no one to make these stories come alive with anymore. And the more I listen to this, the more the soul-crushing crescendo on Dive feels like a defining moment for the album, and the combination between these delicacies and this power and conviction is kind of what makes listening to Beach House just feel like this throbbing in my chest. And Black Car kind of has this bouncy synth lead that feels like by far the most polished moment on this record, but still this blanket of reverb kind of slowly works its way in as more textures build up throughout it. Feels very haunting, and just the steady pacing of this track makes it feel like it could go on forever. It's kind of psychedelic. And I also love the pacing on Last Ride. The pianos feel pretty bare and bleak at first, but then all of the other elements just slowly come in and overtake it, and I think it's probably one of the most expansive tracks here. Now, although I have been praising the fuck out of this album, that's not to say that there aren't a few moments that were like kind of whatever. Most notably probably Girl of the Year, which is pretty hard for me to argue that it doesn't sound like a B-side. It's pretty much just your standard like run-of-the-mill beach house formula worked into one track, not really many redeeming qualities to get into there. And Lose Your Smile, like, I don't really hate the tone of this song, I just feel like the pacing of this track in context of the album, like coming right after Black Car, which was a very patient track too, just kind of makes it come across as pretty underwhelming. But yeah, overall really fucking like this record. I'm gonna give it a big ass 8 out of 10, just, you know, stamp of approval from us over here at the Sound Binge headquarters. And if you like that indie pop, kind of dreamy, shoegazy, like neo-psych, ethereal bullshit, you'll be real into this record. Not many complaints from me. Definitely what 2018 needed, in my opinion. And yeah, just like imagine you're me, okay, and you've been on the road for 30 hours straight, and you're finally back in the Midwest, but you got like an hour and a half to go. It's midnight, alright, and you're tired as fuck, you can't do it anymore. You pull into a parking lot, you sleep unintentionally for like 6 hours, you wake up, it's the next day, the sky's like kind of pink, the sun's coming up, okay, and you're finally in the Midwest after having been in the scary ass West in the dead zones for so long. And yeah, everything just feels so right. You put on this album, you drive home, everything's beautiful, everything's right. Yeah, it's just a great album to put on in the right atmosphere, you know? It hits a spot for me, and I really like it. Suck my dick, alright? Thanks for watching this review, though. I'll see you in the next one, probably gonna be Arctic Monkeys. Subscribe to my channel, maybe. Yeah, see you next time.